You know what we could do? We could use these peelings and these apples to make juice and make apple jelly.
Yeah.
Corey's helping me this morning. Sometimes it seems like I get too many apples and some of them start going bad before we can use them. But that don't bother me, because anytime that happens, what I do is I put them in the dehydrator and dry them. I love dried apples just to eat out of hand. Of course, to make apple stack cakes and fried apple pies, all those kind of things. Dried apples, just like anything else dried, it kind of solidifies all that goodness. It just makes a richer flavor. So I really love them. And a lot of times people ask me, well, what kind do you dry? I dry anything. It doesn't matter to me. We most often prefer to eat a sweet apple. We're like sweet apple eaters. I know some people like really tart ones like Granny Smith, but we prefer sweet ones. So most of the ones I dry are sweet, but they're really just whatever I have on hand. So we've got pretty much a bowl full here, a few more to go. But what we're doing with the kind of the scraps, the core of the apple and the peelings, we're going to make apple jelly out of it. So if you didn't know that you can do that, I'll show you how to do it in a moment. But you can add some water to this and let it cook for several, not really several hours, I would say about an hour, and then drain it, and then that gives you apple juice, and then you can make your jelly from that. I think Corey's eating more than she's putting.
Oh, good.
Yeah. If you've never used one of these little apple peelers, they work really well. It has a suction cup on the bottom, but I found so that you can like suction it to a table. But for me, instead of fooling with that, trying to get it to stay suctioned where it holds it firm, I just hold it with my hand. It's just easier for me not to worry about it. Maybe I just don't know what I'm doing, but...
Yeah, I'd rather hold it with my hand though, I think. I
think you can buy nifty ones that actually attach to your table though. Those would be, or to like a counter or something. Those would be really handy. But this one works good. It's much faster than peeling by hand, which is what I always had to do in the past. I probably had this one a couple of years, but before that, just had to do it by hand, which works, definitely works. When it comes to drying apples, there's just so many ways. I've got several videos where I talk about the different ways. You know, of course, the sunshine is great to dry them, but the easiest way, quickest way is with a dehydrator. So that's what I use. And I've for years used a little cheap round one that Miss Cindy picked up at a yard sale. I don't even remember the name of it. Maybe it was a Presto. Worked fine, worked great. But I graduated to a Excalibur, a larger one, just because I wanted to be able to do more at one time. And it's been really great. I've been really pleased with it.
How expensive are those?
They are pretty expensive. Corey said how expensive they are. They are pretty expensive. I wouldn't buy one unless I was really going to utilize it a lot. And I utilize mine a lot. But the little smaller, cheaper ones, and yard sales and like Facebook yard sales, those kind of things, thrift shops is a great place to look for them too, if you're looking for a dehydrator. Whoops, I dropped one, but a bowl underneath caught it. So that one's, there you go. comes to cooking them, I'm just going to throw the peelings in there. And of course you can wash your apples first, all that kind of stuff. But the only part I'm going to do to the core is I'm going to cut off the little, like the blossom part. I'm going to need to use the right side of the knife to do that. You wouldn't even have to do that, but I'm going to cut that little part out just to keep that those little brown places out of my jelly, because they'll cook up so fine that it'll be hard to get it out.
What part are we taking out again?
Just the little blossom end.
Can I just cut the whole thing off, or should I do
Yeah,
that
you can
actually?
get close like that one, how I did, get close to it and then cut it out.
I can't get that out without just... Maybe I'll just do a different part or something.
Well, you can go through and get those out.
This is
That
like
one's already
spaghetti,
out.
but
Yeah, it
without
is.
guns.
Spaghetti apple peels.
The new healthiest way to make spaghetti is with apple peelings. Just kidding. And this makes me think of the French fries, like when they take a potato and then take like a...
A drill.
And it's like...
What are they called? Like spiral? I don't know what those are called.
No,
They have them
I
at festivals and things, usually.
with that knife.
I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you.
You're fine. Does it matter having the stems in them?
No, I don't care about the
Or even the
stems.
seeds?
No, I don't care about the seeds either. Just those little, this part has little flaky stuff in it that's hard to...
These might be coffee
If I'd have thought
grounds.
about it before, I wasn't thinking about jelly while I was just thinking about drying the apples, and then I thought, well, I shouldn't waste these, I should dry these. I would have done this first, and it would have been easier just to take your knife and get it out, but I didn't. Another thing I didn't think about when I was started was jelly that I didn't think, and I was putting them in this is my little trash bowl I keep just for stuff that I would compost, and it has coffee grounds in the bottom of it. So I'm going to have to give these a quick rinse before I start. Okay, now I've got my apple peelings. I washed them. I washed the coffee grounds off of them and the cores, and I've got them in here. So now I'm going to pour some water just to where, I don't really want it covered, but just to where you want it, definitely need enough to make sure that it doesn't scorch. So I like to put it till it begins to come up around kind of around the edges. I can see it coming up on the edges of the apples there. Maybe I'll put a little bit more. And then I'm going to let it cook for, I don't know, an hour or something like that. And during that time, I will stir it and kind of mash on the peelings and on the apple cores to make sure that all that great apple juice gets out. And then that's what I'll use to make my jelly. Well, Corey asked when she was helping me, and she's seen me do this before, but it's different when you're actually helping someone. Then you think, well, why? Questions pop into your mind. Why would you not just make apple jelly out of the actual apple, out of that part? Well, you can. You definitely can do that. But Granny taught me to do it this way, so I guess Granny looked at it kind of like you're getting double bang for your buck for the apple. So she would make applesauce or apple butter out of the actual apple part. Then she would save all her scraps, boil that down to get the juice, and then make jelly. So you get kind of the jelly and the applesauce. Or in my case today, you get the jelly and the dried apples. Okay, so we've been letting it cook. I let it cook a lot longer than an hour, to be honest with you. I think I misjudged what my memory was thinking. So you may need to cook it till longer than an hour, but I would cook it till those cores that we had, you can see how they've kind of turned into mush. That's how long you want to cook it, whether it takes you an hour, which I did turn it down, and we went to eat dinner outside and on the porch, and then I come back in and turn it back up. So it might still just take an hour, but basically till it's all mushy, that's what you want. And as it was cooking, I did add more water. And I probably should have said at the beginning, or I should have for anyone that's not made jelly before, and I use pectin. So you can always look inside the box of pectin. We'll have directions for jelly, or you could Google it, you know, you could search online. But you should, you know, it'll give you an amount of juice in connection with how much sugar you want. That's what it is. So I've been making jelly for so long that I don't even think about if I'll have enough juice. I just go for it. And if I don't have enough juice, I will, you can add a little bit of water. You could add a little bit of a different kind of juice, or even, you know, some that you had frozen. If I have too much juice, I will either make a double run of jelly, or like if I make this apple jelly and I have a cup left over of juice, I will put that cup of juice in the freezer, and then I can use it the next time that I need it. So you might want to, thinking about how much apples you have and how many peelings you have, keep that, you should go ahead and see how many cups of juice you need. So the one that we're making today, the pectin box that we're using, says we need 7 cups of juice. So we're going to see if this ended up to be 7 cups of juice or not. Ooh, that's what I was afraid was going to happen. I knew better. Do you ever do something you know better than you should, and you just do it anyway? I'm really bad to do that. If I know something, I go ahead and do it even though I know better. I was watching, but I was like, oh, it's not going to overrun. But it did.
I do that all the time.
I should have used my other strainer and that wouldn't have happened, but too late now. Actually, let's switch to that one. Let's do this. This one's better because that can't happen. See if the rest, pour the rest in now and see if I can keep from making a big mess this time. I should have used this strainer to begin with. Okay, looks like we're going to be close. I may have to add a little water. If I ever do have to add water, what I would do, instead of just adding pure water, I would put these, like, either put these back in the pan and add a little water and cook it a little bit longer just to get a little bit more juice, or pour water over top of these at least, just so that you get a little bit more apple or whatever else kind of fruit it is that you're making the jelly from. So if I hadn't spilled all that out, we would have a little bit more, but I made a big mess. So now I'm going to rinse out our pot, and then we'll be ready to make the jelly. So as you can see from the juice, see how cloudy and kind of it is? So you can tell that all that juice, that's really amazing. It come from the scraps that we were just going to, you know, you could have just thrown out to your chickens or your animals or whatever. So that's a really great, like a frugal way of making jelly, is to use those peelings and the cores when you were going to, whether you were drying apples like us or making applesauce or something. So you can see how much appley goodness still come out of just the peels and the cores. You can also do that with peaches. Works really well with peaches. going to add my box of pectin and just stir it in well. And then we're going to let that come up to a boil. Okay, we've come to a boil, so now we're going to put our sugar in all at once. Now we've got all the sugar stirred in, and I'm going to let it come back to a full rolling boil. We're going to let it boil 1 minute, and then we can put it in the jars. So now we're to a boil. We're going to let it boil 1 minute. Okay. Turned out a very pretty color. What would you call that, amber?
Yeah.
Kind of an amber color. It's pretty.
Almost looks like peach.
Yeah, almost looks like peach. It was red apple, so I guess that's where that color come from. So now that I've got this one sealed, I'm going to set it over to the side and allow it to cool. After 24 hours, you can check the jars, make sure they've sealed, and you know they've sealed by pushing on the top. If it shouldn't give any. If it gives, it didn't seal. If it didn't seal, just put it in the refrigerator and eat it first. And you can take the rings off if you want to and use them again before you store it. Granny usually leaves hers on. It's personal preference. Sometimes I leave mine on and sometimes I take them off. But if you do take them off, it gives you the opportunity to reuse them. So that's the great thing about it. But see, it turned out really pretty, really beautiful. So now Corey's going to help me put the rest of it in jars. So we got the jelly made in record time. Corey helping out really made a difference. And I'm so glad I thought of it while we were, my mind was only going to drying the apples, not to actually making jelly. So we ended up with, it's still really runny, we've just now finished, but with 5 pints and then one little baby one there, one little jar. I guess that's a half a pint. So that's really great. So once I get them all lidded up, I like to put a towel over top of them, kind of to hold that heat in. As they cool, they'll begin to actually seal. And another good tip, or I think it is to write on them what it is, so that if you're not, you probably, if you're the one doing it, you'll know exactly what it is. But if you don't, if you're not the person actually going down to your pantry or your cabinet, or like me going down to the basement, then somebody else might be like, is that apple? Is that peach? What is that? Ooh, I really love peach, but I don't like apple. So I always write on it just so Matt and the girls or anybody else would know what it is. It did turn out, though, such a pretty color. Such a pretty color. It does kind of look like peach, though, so that's another reason that you would want to write on it. So every time I make jelly, I have to taste it, and I love to taste it with a piece of just light bread and put some jelly on it and fold it over. Now this is really runny, so me and Corey are living dangerously because it's hot, because we've just got it off the stove. Is that enough for you, Corey?
Sure.
Okay.
Wait, add a little more. Why not? Oops. Thank you.
I had to get me a glass of milk, but Corey said she didn't want no milk.
No, I don't like milk.
How do you not like milk, girl?
I don't know.
Did you ever like milk?
No, I never did. It's not gonna kill me to drink it. I just don't like it. I drink it in stuff, or eat it in stuff, or eat it in cereal.
Okay. So good. It's just that hot jelly. This is one of the good things in life. Every time I make jelly, I make sure that I do this. We hope that you enjoyed seeing how we make apple jelly out of apple peelings and apple cores. I really love the kind of using up the whole apple, so that if we made applesauce today, we were drying apples, but then you also use the scraps for something. I really love that. Granny taught me that when I was growing up, so that's one of the things I learned from her, and it works well with other things too. As always, we hope you'll drop back by often to help us celebrate Appalachia, which is a whole lot of canning and putting up food for the future.